Welcome to episode 5. Here we go.
Yo.
Episode 5 of the Record Shepherds. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening again. We have a very special episode today. Our man Daneon is on camera.
What's up? This is what he looks like.
Yo, guys, thank you so much for having me in your couch. I really appreciate that.
No, mate, you're making the place look very handsome. For those of you watching on YouTube, this is what handsome Daneon looks like.
Yeah,
Thank you, brother.
We might have to make this a permanent setup, to be honest with you.
I like it over here too. You know, it's kind of nice too.
Yeah. Well,
in front of the camera sometimes.
You're very welcome, and it's nice to get so cozy, all three of us.
It's very cozy in here.
Yes, sir. So, Jason, why don't you explain to the audience why Daneon is sitting on this couch?
Yeah, well, on last week's episode, we were talking about the key team members that every artist needs around them. And I think we all agreed that certainly at the very beginning and actually right the way throughout the career, one of the key persons on that team is the person who's going to help you produce the music, okay? And of course, content is king, and without the producer, you don't have the content.
Yeah, and just a note to that, at the end of the day, like you might know a lot about how the music industry goes, whether it be the royalties or how to market music, etc. But at the end of the day, it starts off with the content, as you were saying. It starts off with the music and, how you make the music and, how you collaborate and all those good things. So I think it's very good now that we're going to talk about this week.
I'm going to quote one of my best friends, Trevor, who always says, "Where's the song?" Instead of whatever word you want to put in there, but where's the song? That is the key.
Yeah, because you can have the best marketing team in the world without the song, without the track. You're gonna get found out.
I mean, listen, even that labels, right? There are a lot of folks nowadays who, it's Web3 is like the trendy thing to talk about, NFTs, like incorporating this sort of techie stuff within the music, which I think is super interesting. But I think a good philosophy, like you were just saying, is where's the record? At the end of the day, that is what is the most important thing. That is what people connect to. So
yes. So segueing back, let me introduce you, Daneon. Daneon is a accomplished singer, songwriter, and music producer and artist in his own right, primarily working in the genres of pop, R&B, and the Latin genres, I think it's fair to say. And just to give you an idea, he is the producer and songwriter behind some multi-platinum hits from the likes of Karol G, Yane, Tini, Max, Mark Anthony, Bad Bunny, and even Will Smith. I read on your bio.
Random. That's awesome.
That was before the Oscars, but yeah.
We could
he might need your help after the Oscars, to be honest.
We could get a nice sound effect put on top here. But anyway. So I think, really, what better person than to come on in this episode, sit on the couch and talk to us about life as a producer and life as an artist. We're going to see both sides of the coin, I guess. And, I think what we'd like for the audience, the listeners, to get out of this is if you're at home and you're an artist, you're a songwriter, you've got the songs, you've got the melody, whatever it might be, but you're like, how do I get the music into a track that is fitting for release? You're going to need a producer. You're going to need somebody who knows how to record and how to bring the whole thing together. And really, if anyone's struggling, thinking, hey, what are the next steps? This episode's going to be all about that. So,
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
The Record
sitting
Shepherds.
right next to you guys in this beautiful space and trying to, share some values, some love with the people out there listening to us.
So let's start here. So you are an accomplished producer and artist within your own right. You have a tremendous career that you're still growing on. So let's take it back to how you got started in the industry. Like where did your love of music even start? Let's go back there. How did music enter your life?
Man, I've been doing music all of my life. Since I was a kid. I was born in Colombia, so in my country, being a musician, a professional musician, wasn't really an aspiration for many people, because there's not a lot of opportunities. But I always dream of making music, and I went to college. I studied a little bit of music in Colombia. Then I had the opportunity to come to the United States and continue studying here. So I did like sound engineering and music production. And I just got into the business right away, man. I mean, it took me a few years to get to that level of confidence where I knew enough skills to be in a recording studio and to be in the field. But I mean, it's different eras. I've been doing this for quite a while. So I feel like nowadays with YouTube and like all the stuff, resources that are online, you don't need to go through that long process that I went through. But I did go through a long process, and it felt good. It was nice. I started working at a recording studio as a assistant, basically just picking up cables and cleaning and like trying to help, Then from there, the engineers started putting me on sessions and delegating things to me, and I started learning how to record and work with other people. Then I got invited to do a big session with Looney Tunes, which are like very popular Latin producers, reggaeton producers. They work with like Daddy Yankee and like some big names. And I learned a lot from them. I was just working as an engineer, but I learned a lot about production. And I started producing reggaeton music myself. I was already doing some electronic music on the side. So everything just started coming together. And little by little, I started building a name. And I was able to collaborate with different artists and got invited to do songwriting sessions and basically just got in that world, so.
Yeah, it's funny because you talked about that long process, right? And there's a lot of debate that goes on about how, especially when it comes to creative fields like visual art or in music, whether it makes sense to go to school or not for stuff like that. So do you feel like you learned a lot in school, and did that prepare you for your career? Did you
Absolutely.
learn? Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I think school is key to have the basics of not only the skills to learn, but also like learn things about your work ethic and how to be on top of like specific goals and work with other people and things like that. Because I feel nowadays we have all the resources we want online, and we can do whatever we want and learn from our room. And we're gonna talk about that, which is also something I love, the new way of making music. But also education and formal education, it kind of shapes many important things for your long-term career. So
how long were you at school for? How long were you at school for?
I was in school for about 4 years in Colombia for like piano, like classical piano and like music basically in the conservatory. But I wasn't learning anything about production or engineering or anything like that, because there was no school for that where I was going to school.
Yeah.
So I went to school for that in Florida, in FAU, Florida Atlantic University. Shout out to my Owls.
I think I agree.
Couple of years there.
I think I agree with you. I think my view is like, you might not necessarily need to go to school for something, but you need to learn your craft.
Absolutely.
And I think you need to be surrounded by other people who are doing the same thing, to sort of motivate you, and I think a lot of the times that happens in school. Now, whether you need to go to like a university for it, like it's just up to like what you can do or can't do. But I definitely value the process. So it's really interesting to see that, you went through that and you still advocate for people to go through that, even though we live in a world where everything is so accessible.
Yeah, man. And it's also not only about learning, like to me, it was always about learning the music and learning the skills to make the music. And then later on in my career, I realized, dang, I should have taken some marketing classes.
Yeah.
And some business administration classes and some.
That's so true. And
psychology,
the whole gambit.
Yeah. You just gotta take those classes. Just do it. Yeah, because it's part of the whole thing. You're not gonna survive only by knowing how to make a beat. You need to know relationships. You need to know business. You need to know
Here's a question for you, because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, specifically in relation to Billie Eilish's comments about how she didn't feel she deserved to headline the stage at Coachella. Now, as a attorney, when I finished like training and qualified as an attorney, I was technically qualified, but really it takes a little while of actually doing it on the job to like properly cut your teeth and properly be in a position where you not only know what you're doing, you're confident that you know what you're doing. Did you have that process when you were in the studio and you started being brought in to sessions, etc.? Was there a time where you had that eureka moment, I guess, where at last I'm confident in what I'm doing, or like a bit of imposter syndrome, which we were talking about the other week?
Absolutely, man. I want to tell you the truth. When I got my first big job, I had no idea what I was doing. I was put in a session with a big board and a lot of equipment that I never had the chance to work with before. And they told me, it's like, Danny, can you use all this? I'm like, sure.
Make it till you make it. Yeah.
And I had to figure it out. Like I was like 30 minutes into the first session. I was like, okay, this goes here, this goes here.
Yeah.
Okay. The level of tension and stress
man, I still have that stress. I still have that stress every time I go to a live show and I'm in front of the sound desk just looking at all those knobs. I'm going, rather you than me, mate.
It's a lot. And then sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but that's part of the skills that you learn by doing it. You learn to manage stress and troubleshooting. When you're an engineer, when you're a producer, especially when you're working with big names, you better get it right.
Yeah.
Because
you have no choice.
You better not mess it up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's your shot.
You have no choice, right?
You have no choice. But then you learn to think quickly, and you learn to kind of like it's like a pilot. You learn to manage the emotions in the room and make sure everything is all right, and reinforcement, and there's a lot of psychological stuff that goes behind the scenes.
And I feel like with
for a producer, I'd say
for producers and with engineers specifically, I feel like it's one of the most thankless jobs in the music industry. It's like, people don't pay engineers attention until something is wrong, right?
Absolutely.
And then you get blamed for everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
If everything sounds right, the artist is king. If everything sounds like bad,
you're getting
then it. Who is the blame. But that's fine. That's part of the job, and I love it, and I really love working with different people, and always learning, always
learning. So I mean that we've talked a little bit about some of the names that you've worked as a producer, and it's clear that you've had success and been able to sustain a career at that, and then you've also more recently dived into the artist world as an artist in your own right. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, to me, being an artist came first. I always wanted to write songs and make my own songs and record them and produce them. And then when I started very young trying to do this, I realized I couldn't produce myself, and I needed to find somebody to do it. And it was really difficult for me to find a producer. So I had to force myself to learn how to produce. And as I became more familiar with the craft and learned all of this, then opportunities to do it for somebody else came.
Yeah.
And I started putting aside my artist project. And then years passed and kept passing, and I just kept growing as a producer, and my artist project just kept putting aside, and then, I mean, recently, the last few years, the pandemic and all the things that have been happening in the world kind of like woke me up to realize that this life is very short, and that we need to do what we love, and we need to follow our dreams and do the things that we always wanted. And then that got me inspired. The whole story.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He's part of the whole like awakening of like doing my own thing. And now it's like I found a balance. Now I'm finding a balance, because when you're doing your artist project, you have to invest a lot into it, and it takes time.
Right.
and energy, right? And that a lot of that creative energy,
and it takes a lot of the stuff that we talk about in this podcast. You know, like figuring out the marketing and figuring out the distribution and figuring out the team and et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot. And then when you're a producer, it's just like, okay, you gotta be a producer. So
question for you: when it comes to that duality, obviously, you know, you produce your own music.
Yes.
So how do you decide like which one of your beats or whatever you make stays with you or is one that you give to somebody else?
Good question.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I figured out that my job as a producer is one specific role that I'm fulfilling, and my job as an artist is a different role that I'm fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing something as an artist, I'm trying to write songs that are very meaningful to me, songs that are expressing something very specific that I've been going through emotionally or whatever. And then I'm trying to make a song that sounds like I want it to sound.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to express all my emotions through that sound. And when I'm working for another artist as a producer, my job is to help that artist find their own sound.
Yeah, that is that strikes me as a fundamental difference between the creative process,
very big difference,
as an artist, and the creative process as a producer.
Yes, because I feel there's different approaches to being a producer. You know, you could also be your own producer where you make your own beats and you have your own sound, and this is the way I make songs. But I kind of learned to be a producer from that old school approach that I looked up to, like to producers like Quincy Jones and like Max Martin and these producers that really dig into that relationship with the artist and try to explore what they do and what they want.
You're a producer.
Yeah, and then you produce them.
Yeah.
That is different than being a beat maker.
Right. No.
When you sit down and you just make beats and then somebody jumps on the beat that you make.
Yeah, 100%.
Which they're both extremely valid and extremely important in the industry, you know?
But you're right. You know, the artist has got to be the the epicenter of the creativity, right?
It's the connection to the self, to your own true self and story and life history that you're trying to put on music, you know. And it's hard. It's not easy shifting from being a producer to being an artist, because when you're a producer, you're in a safe space somehow. But as a helper, you're helping somebody release all their emotions. When you're the artist yourself, it's all you.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it naturally follows that if you are the artist and it is all you want the best team around you, again, helping that. And in this instance, you want to be working with a producer where that relationship is great, that relationship works, and they do assist you in bringing out that, that emotion or whatever, the creative spark that the artist has.
Yeah, when you're an artist, you need to know the role of the producer in your own personal career, but you also need to know your options. Like, what are the different things that you can do to make music? Because it's not only like you're gonna find a producer and you're gonna hire them and they're gonna do everything for you.
Yeah, well, let's dive into that. That's probably like a nice way to add some insight for our listeners. I'm imagining that a lot of our listeners are in the situation where they're writing songs at home. They see themselves as artists, and they'd like, singer-songwriters, let's say, or, performers, whatever it might be. They're maybe good at the melody. They can play a bit. They can write. But now they're in the situation where they do want to reach out to a producer and they want to get a track recorded and ultimately released. So what are the options, in your opinion, for some of our listeners who are in that situation?
Well, I mean, you can do different things. If you're writing songs, you need to learn how to record them. That's the number one thing you need to do. Even if it's just on your phone, even if it's just on your laptop through GarageBand, if you have a Mac or whatever, you have to, as an artist, be able to put your songs into a tangible medium so you can contact somebody that is going to help you make that better. Because as a producer, the number one thing I want to hear from somebody is a demo. I want to hear what they're doing and what their approach is, even if it's just something very raw. Sometimes artists send me like a voice note with their song and the idea, and they're really good singers. They just don't know how to play an instrument. But with that voice note, I put it on my computer, put a little Melodyne, adjust the time, and start building the song around that.
Yeah.
So the number one step that you have to do as an artist is be able to make your own demos, whichever way you can. Number two, you need to have a network of people that you can pitch into, which there's a lot of people out there now, like on Instagram and
I'm speaking of someone, I've not been in that position, so this is fantastic to actually explore. What are the main? We're in 2022. We're in a digital era, etc.
Yeah, what are the options nowadays?
Yeah, it must be. It's so easy to reach out and connect with anyone. But what are the main ways that budding artists can contact producers?
There is actually a website that I use, and I get a lot of requests there for production and mixing and even recording like tracks and vocals. It's called soundbetter.com.
Yeah, I have heard of that.
Soundbetter.com. We should share that link maybe later on the description so people can check it out. But soundbetter.com is basically a website where there's a network of producers, engineers, session musicians, songwriters, singers of all levels, including top level like artists, that people that has worked with like Katy Perry and like Elton John and like big names.
Yeah.
And you can hire them through the website, and then kind of like give them what's a description of what you're looking for, and then they'll give you a price, they'll give you a rate, obviously depending on the names and the credits of the person that you've been working with. The prices and all the range is going to be different, but it's a good way to find professional producers to do your thing on a distance. This is like all online.
Absolutely. I mean, look, that's actually mind-blowing that is available to people, in this day and age.
Fun fact, Spotify own that website, and all the credits, like when you see credits on certain like big tracks, you go to the credits and you in one of the names are highlighted. You could click on it and it would take you to the Soundbetter thing. But I think, second fun fact, I think Soundbetter bought it back from Spotify. Yeah.
That's pretty
cool.
They're
like, no, thank you.
Yeah. So they're like, no, thank you. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
so with an online tool like that, do you feel like where an artist lives has a significant impact on their ability to build that network that you were talking about?
Absolutely not. You can be anywhere in the world and you can work with anybody anywhere in the world. I work with people in Philippines, in Croatia. I just did a song for an Ukrainian girl that was out of Ukraine, and she wanted to do like a song about what was happening. It was, very interesting.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So what would the differences be between?
So that's one. That's one.
Soundbetter.
Soundbetter is one way. I use that. If you wanna contact me through Soundbetter, you can find me there. But also, I think Instagram is an amazing. I would say Instagram, TikTok, whatever other social media you use, but Instagram definitely is a very popular. The camera just beeped.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll carry on.
The Instagram is a really good. It's a really good option because producers they post there all the time, like how they make beats and things like that, and you could probably contact them through DM. And actually, a lot of the clients and a lot of the independent artists that I work with that are, at a certain medium high level of like popularity have contacted me through Instagram.
That's fantastic.
And I found a lot of
so like an untapped resource potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Just get on the DMs, get on DMs.
Mm-hmm. So what if I'm an artist and for some reason I just don't have the ability to contact people? I don't, I it's weird for me to work with other producers. I just sort of want to like find beats and like sing or rap over them. Is there a tool for that?
So yeah, absolutely. There's a website called BeatStars, which I'm sure a lot of maybe of our listeners are familiar with, but if you're not, it's a very, very popular place where you can basically find any beats in all kinds of genres and styles, and you could license those beats, or you can buy the license to have them exclusively, or you can also have non-exclusive licenses where the price is really small, but then different people can use that beat. There's different options, but it's actually a really good website. I've been putting out a lot of my beats that I've had from before that I've never, sold or anything, and just put them up there. And like there's people also using this resource, and I think it's really cool. Some people even go to YouTube and just, I'm not advocating for this, pay for your beats, but if for whatever reason you cannot do it, you can just find a beat on YouTube and write something to it, and at least that'll give you a starting point to make music.
Yeah, but of course we would advocate that they go on to the likes of BeatStars, and I also saw United Masters, who we were talking about in the first episode.
Yeah.
United
you were
Masters.
Telling me about United Masters.
Yeah,
I never used them, but
they've launched their own. I guess it's like this beat marketplace where producers and artists can go on and buy and sell beats, and it's like their own version, I guess. So it's called Beat Exchange, and they have. I think Hit Boy was involved in the launch on it this week, and they have some.
They're carrying some big names.
Yeah, legit producers on there. I was having a flick through, and it's the same sort of deal. You can go on there. It's very searchable in terms of genre, in even like by name of producer, and all their beats are on there. And you can go in, you can license it again on a non-exclusive basis, which essentially, it's a non-exclusive basis, an exclusive basis, and a full buyout. Okay, and just for
same as BeatStars. BeatStars also gives you that option. And actually, SoundBetter.com also opened a new department, like a new tab of like beats, but I think they're a little more exclusive, and they don't let everybody sell them. Like they curate.
They curate it. They a little
curate
bit more.
What is the So BeatStar is more like any producer can just open an account and upload their beats there, and I think that's pretty cool. But
so I'd like to give just the listeners a little bit of an insight there as to what non-exclusive, exclusive, and buyout means. Non-exclusive essentially means that the track that you're selecting, the beat that you're selecting, you can download that, you can use it for certain limited uses. I think on a lot of them, the contracts I've seen, it's up to like 10 million, 10 million streams, etc. But the most important thing is that somebody else can also license that same beat, and the next person and the next person. So there's no exclusivity on it, as implied. Exclusivity, you're only licensing it to you so nobody else can use that track. But again, it's limited. And the buyout, that's going to be more expensive. Like upfront, you're going to have to be like paying a fee to use that exclusively. But also I think there's going to be no back end royalties payable to the producer as well. So it's just a flat fee.
I think this is a great option for producers nowadays, because I believe, and I've experienced this myself, the demand for full-on producers to sit down with the artist and write the song and come up with the whole concept of what the beat's going to be like and everything, it's getting a little bit slower, I would say, than actually just an artist showing up to a room and be like, play me some beats.
Good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a need for fast paced production.
Yeah.
And we're in a world where artists are trying to put out songs like almost like weekly, right?
Yeah, so I want to go back to because we had talked about like paying for beats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So do you feel like there is any value when it comes to like a producer like giving away beats for free? Like, because especially we were talking about like people that you need on your team, right? Like if you are an artist and you have a close relationship with that producer, are you necessarily paying them every time that you guys are making music together, or is there some leeway? Like, you know, we give you free beats now, and then when you blow up, that's when we sort of like make the business right. Have you ever seen that before?
I've seen that. I've been offered that also many times, and it's a little bit difficult when, as a producer, you are basically that's your source of income.
Right.
You know, that's your job. Like if you're a professional, you're trying to work as a producer, you're trying to get paid ahead as much as you can, because a lot of the time this promise that we have usually of, okay, we're gonna make this and it's gonna be so big and everybody's gonna win, it doesn't happen all the time. Now, if you do it with the intention of being a collaborator,
yeah,
and if you're coming from a point of like, oh, I produce music, I really like how you sing, let me produce a song for you guys and let's put it out together and let's release it into the world, and whatever that song generates, then we'll win. And also sometimes the artist, I mean the producer, can become an artist on the track. That way he can also build his brand as a beat maker and as an artist, and be part of the collaboration of creating this music. But if you're making just beats and music for somebody else, and that person is not paying you, and they're putting out songs every 2 weeks or every 2 weeks, then it's a little unfair sometimes to the producers, you know?
Makes sense. And maybe that's a good segue into the producer's approach in terms of how we're making this music, right? So like the artist,
absolutely,
you know, the artist has a few options when it comes to like getting beats off of online, collaborating with people. What are some things that like a producer, you know, who's maybe in the similar situation to where they're making beats at home, what are some things that they have to consider when it comes to like, you know, making music with artists or collaborating with other people?
Yeah, shout out to all the producers listening in.
Shout out to all the producers, yes. Yeah. Well, I say on the other end, as a producer, you have to be flexible. You have to be very flexible. You have to be willing to work with everybody, and you have to be willing to negotiate whichever way you can so the track comes out. Because at the end of the day, each song that you produce and each track that you make is like a seed. And that seed is not going to grow until it doesn't get out. It gets out of your computer, you know? Because you can have songs sitting on your hard drive for years and they never come out and they're not doing anything for you. So might as well sell them for very cheap.
Yeah, that also must be incredibly frustrating. Like,
put it on BeatStars, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, I guess it's like almost like an occupational hazard, whatever. You have to get comfortable with that. There's going to be a lot of music that you come up with.
and you will always be able to create more, you know? That's my other mentality. It's like you can always make more magic. So don't be so precious with the music that you're making, but try to come up with a fair deal on how that's going to be released. That's very important. And in the relationship with the artist, or in the or even with labels, you know, if you're at that level where you're already working with labels, try to find a way that they put you on more songs by sending them songs. So sometimes you have to just send out beats and send out emails and send out things to people so they can hear what you do, and then
actually get on the front foot, proactive, and like I guess use this connectivity of the, you know, the world of the internet to actually go out and make it happen a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Something that we had talked about pre-recording when we were going over this is you had mentioned that a producer also has to consider tiers of artists. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's artists in all kinds of levels, I would say, and I'm not saying some are better or worse. Sometimes artists in the highest tiers are not at the level of some of the artists that are in the lowest tiers, but they, for whatever reason, they're more popular. They're already signed to a major label. So I would put them in these categories. Major label artists. Any artist that is signed to Sony, BMG, Warner, Universal, the big guys. They are major label artists. They are your highest tier as a producer, and you have to make sure those deals are done correctly. You need to have a lawyer. You need to have somebody helping you negotiate those contracts. Make sure your royalties are in order. Make sure you're getting paid a fair fee for that artist.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you could be a bedroom producer, right? And all of a sudden, I don't know, any name.
Yeah, well, no,
picks a song.
It happens, and even I was involved in a situation where there was a track released, and it was it had done okay, but it wasn't setting the world alight. And then there was a remix done on this for essentially on TikTok from an unheard of producer, and all of a sudden he's getting a phone call, and there's a contract getting sent over from a major record label, and all of a sudden it's like, oh hey, this is first time for everything.
Yeah,
so
but
it can happen.
But it's a very important moment for a producer, and when you get to that point, you need to make sure that part of the business is done right, because it's a hard business. It's a very difficult business, especially when you're starting out and you don't have much experience. Sometimes some people even get suggested to sign what's work for hires, right, quote unquote. Which is kind of like okay, we'll give you $500 and you give us all of the rights.
Yeah, sure.
So we don't have to get too much into those specific details, because we can talk about that in another moment. But the business is very important. So that's your first tier, right? Major label artists. I would say the second tier is independent label artists. And those artists that are working with independent labels, they are already doing something that is commercial. They already have a team. They already have a plan of release and everything, but they don't have the same budgets that the major labels have. And they don't have the same reach. So those tracks might not get as far as the tracks with the big artists, but those are also important for your career, and those are part of how you build your reputation, and
yeah. So you would say it's probably detrimental for a producer to treat everybody the same, charge my fee is this. There's it definitely doesn't work like that, because when you're working with a major label artist, well, they have money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they already have money defined for how much they're gonna pay for that track.
So that,
but it's really hard to get to that level, and it's really hard to get those placements. So let's say in a year you probably make a couple of these major label tracks, and you make more of the independent label tracks.
Got you.
Yeah. And those tracks that you do with independent labels sometimes come because of the one major track that you did, or
yeah.
So it's important to cultivate that, because that's kind of what gives you the leverage to do that.
So that's talking about artists, working with artists who are signed, whether it to be majors or smaller independent labels. Do you ever, what about artists who are unsigned? Do you have people reaching out to you and you go damn, this is a good song, this is something I actually want to work on, or I see talent there? And
that's a lot. Actually, yes, I do work with a lot of independent artists that way, and this is the artist that I'm telling you that sometimes they contact you through Instagram, right? Or they come through soundbetter.com or this kind of platforms, and basically they're just doing their own thing independently. They're working full time and having 2 jobs and saving money and trying to make things work out.
Yeah.
And these artists are also part of this list of tiers. And of course, I'm not going to charge an independent artist the same thing I would charge.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, I mean, that'll forgive the pun, that'll be music to a lot of our listeners' ears, because, you know, I think a lot of people are going to find themselves in that position. And if they're listening to this podcast, it's, you know, from that position that they're seeking to work with producers who have experience, who can help bring out, you know, that talent and that vision. And they do want to work with people.
They do.
Like
and they're interested in helping out us up and coming artists, because also we're always looking for new things to do. And sometimes we've been doing this for a while, and then we don't have those fresh, brand new ideas, right? And then but a demo can go a long way. That's what I'm saying. If you're writing your own music and doing your own demos, can go a long way.
I mean, I will say, I think that's sort of where the concept of production deals sort of came from, where you either have like production houses or producers specifically who want to work with different tiered artists, and, you know, those artists might not have the budget, but this producer who's established really believes in that artist, so they, you know, they sign them to production deals, like help cultivate the career, help cultivate their sound, and then they bring it somewhere else, you know, for the rest of it. So I think maybe that's an option too, but also just like, you know, if you believe in an artist, working with them, working within their budget, and just so you can have that relationship, because you never know where they're going to go.
Yeah. And also, again, we were talking about collaborations earlier.
Yeah.
Sometimes you as a producer can make the choice of work for somebody and not charge them money or not try to do anything ahead, but maybe you invest time on them to collaborate on owning that master and trying to make music that you think is gonna make an impact, you know. So
yeah,
it's always good to do all of those.
What are some online resources for producers who are just, you know, making music in their bedrooms, as we like to say?
Well, I would say the number one resource is YouTube.
Okay. Because
YouTube has all the answers to all of your questions when it comes down to production. I've seen artists. I have friends and close, even related people that are artists, and they've been trying to like get into this, and all of a sudden in a couple months they already know how to make beats. And they learned on YouTube.
Yeah. You can do everything on YouTube. You can learn everything
anything
on YouTube. If I've ever got a problem around the house and I'm trying to do anything, just get on YouTube. It'll teach you. If I'm on my computer and I don't know how to get on YouTube, it'll teach you.
I've been trying to teach my dog how not to bark when I don't leave the house, but I haven't found the right video yet. But
yeah.
But yeah, you can pretty much learn anything. And YouTube, I think, is a great source of education and inspiration. But when you're looking for like sounds and you're already producing, you already know the basics of music production, there's a website called Splice. Splice.com.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
Splice is, it's awesome. I mean, I love it. I can play different instruments and I can record whatever I want, but sometimes you just want that specific sound that is so specific and so like unique of what you want. You can find it there. You can find it's basically a website where there's samples and sample packs of like drums and keyboards and synthesizers and little one shots or like even full musical pieces that you can use, and they are all royalty free, which means that you can legally use these sounds and put them on a song and release it commercially, and nobody's gonna come at you.
Amazing. And do you pay a subscription for that, or do you buy like a la carte as you need?
Yeah, you pay a subscription, like monthly. I think it's like $10 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
$14, and then basically they give you credits, like monthly credits. You get like 10,000 credits or 7,000, whatever, and then you can just download whatever you download. That I think they also have like plugins and they have some educational stuff. I don't use all of it. I really just use it for like looking for sounds, especially drum sounds.
Oh yeah,
drum sounds are amazing
because with a lot of these like DAWs or like recording software, like they come with like preset drums and preset instruments, but they might not necessarily be the best thing for you.
Yeah, and also they're not the freshest like current sounds, and that's what I like about Splice, that you can find sounds that are relevant to the genre that you're trying to produce, and they're trying to always give you new packs and new things where the sounds are very fresh. So it's a good resource. I would say don't overuse it.
Yeah.
I would say don't overuse it, you know, try to be mindful of how you're using the samples and everything, and how you being creatively using that, because obviously everybody has access to it, but what's going to make a difference is how you use it, right? And how you try to make your own song special.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, look, I think like that's covered a lot of ground for sure, and you know we've it's been super awesome to have you on the couch for the first time, Daneon, and
it feels good. Thank you guys, appreciate this. I love sharing all this stuff. You know, I love talking about music. So
yeah, and I would say, you know, for the audience, if you have any more questions, we're gonna definitely be posting resources in the description below. You're always welcome to email us at therecordshepherds@gmail.com for any more questions. DM us directly. And yeah, keep tuning in. We'll try to answer as many questions as you guys have and cover these topics going forward.
Yeah, get on the Instagram as well. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok, and you know, so like reach out to us. We'd love to hear any questions. You know, and we'll do our best to follow up on as many of those as we can, and suggestions for topics that you'd like, you know, to hear us cover, and we're happy, you know, to serve in that way too. So but look, we're gonna have Daneon back on the couch again. You just give us like such a great insight, you know, from that perspective of the artist, from the producer. He will be around, and with his little dog Beetle the Beagle.
Beetle. Oh, he's sleeping.
He's sleeping there. Well, listen, we're going to be back soon with another episode. But thanks for listening, Daneon. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you guys for having me. And if anybody has any questions or anything, also contact me on Instagram or whatever social media. We'll be around.
Yeah, actually, why don't you go ahead and plug some of the stuff that you got going on? Any projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I got a few things working on now. I actually have a new single of my own.
In your artist capacity?
Yeah, my own artist capacity, coming up on the 26th of May.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So
that might be
this will be out by then. So
this might be out by then, probably.
Indeed.
And then I'm working on an album, following up that single for my own stuff, and I'm working with a bunch of different artists. You know, like I'm just like hustling, man. Gotta do it. Putting out all those seeds out there into the world. So yeah, but always looking to the new stuff. So
amazing.
Good luck. Well, that leaves nothing else for me to say than continue following the guidance of the Record Shepherds.
Don't be the sheep.
Be the goat.
Thank you.